Tonight on the Black Channel, you think you know it all. I assure you, you don't. After tonight, you will. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting superfortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media, and this is the Black Channel, and I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college and university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, there is a reason why they call this the Black Media. And there's a reason why I'm called the voice of Black America, and I serve a number of different functions that the media, corporate media, simply will not, and that the dead black media simply cannot. And tonight is one of those times. So what I want to do here, because you think you know it all, you think you know everything, I assure you that is not the case. That is not the case at all. I want to start with a story that they've been talking about here for a little while. As you all know, the Laverne Police Department there in Tennessee, and everyone's favorite thought cop there, amazingly enough, has filed a federal lawsuit. But there are things you don't know, and even things that aren't in the media, but after tonight, you will. What I want to do for you here is I want to play this story from WKRN, so you can hear what they had to say, because there are details that you haven't heard, and this dovetails off of everything else, because I'm touching on a few subjects tonight, but this will dovetail off of everything else I'll be discussing here tonight.
Fired last month, accused of being part of a sex scandal within the department, filed a federal civil rights violation lawsuit against the city. In that lawsuit, Megan Hall's attorneys claim Hall's department supervisor groomed her sexually. News 2's Tori Gessner read through the 100-plus pages of her lawsuit. She joined us live in studio to explain those accusations. Tori?
Bob, the lawsuit names the city of Laverne, former Chief Chip Davis, and former Sergeants Lewis Powell and Henry Ty McGowan. Megan Hall is suing for lost wages, mental suffering, and reputational harm after the lawsuit says her supervisors groomed her for sexual exploitation, forced her into having sex, and took and sent nude photos of her without her consent. The lawsuit includes social media messages attributed to former Chief Davis telling Hall he's lonely, another saying he'll harass her and make work fun, and a third describing her outfit as, quote, hot girl summer. The lawsuit alleges supervisors promised Hall she would be promoted in exchange for sex acts. Then her attorney says when she tried to end the relationships, they threatened to disclose her mental health issues, which could have cost her her job, according to the lawsuit. The documents claim the exploitation was so bad, Hall tried to take her own life to escape. The lawsuit asks that a jury try the case and determine the amount of money.
All right, first of all, what I want to deal with here is let's go ahead and deal with WKRN first of all here, because WKRN, really, when you take a look at this, you see the first thing they did, they have a still shot, and they only show all the black officers. I don't know about this dude on the end. I don't know if he's mixed or Latino or whatever. I'm not sure about it. I'm not sure. I know folks are making estimations and guesstimations. I'm not sure. But you'll notice they show the four officers aside from her. None of them are the police chief. None of these are the police chief, but this is the television station showing this particular picture. Now, this is important because if you listen to what she said about the lawsuit, the picture they're showing right here doesn't make any sense. Listen for yourselves.
Hall's department supervisor groomed her sexually. News 2's Tori Gessner read through the 100-plus pages of her lawsuit. She joined us live in studio to explain those accusations. Tori?
Bob, the lawsuit names the city of Laverne, former Chief Chip Davis, and former Sergeants Lewis Powell and Henry Ty McGowan.
Okay, now you heard that. The
Megan
people
Hall-
that it names.
That lawsuit.
You heard the people that it said that it names. Well, these are the individuals that it named. I put them in red there, so you can see it for yourselves, a bit of a visual aid here. Well, those are the people actually named in the lawsuit. And I just wanted to point it out. Later in their news piece, I'll show you here that this is the still image they show later in the news piece, because these are the individuals actually named in the lawsuit itself. Jason, how do you know? Because I've actually gone and read the lawsuit myself. So the rest of you don't have to. By the way, I've actually read the lawsuit that she filed. I'm not just talking about a news story or taking the news media's word for it. They said she filed a lawsuit. You all know me. I'm going to take an afternoon out and I'm going to actually read the lawsuit. I'll read the bills, I'll read the laws, I'll go through them line by line. Well, I actually could be bothered to go read the lawsuit itself, and as you can see, it names the city of Laverne, the former police chief, that's Chip Burrell, Lewis Powell. I'm sorry, I gotta go correct the names right quick. But Lewis Powell is the one over there on the right with the canine outfit on there. And the guy in the middle, Henry Ty McGowan. And that's not accidental. It's not accidental at all. So just recognize that the lawsuit says who is supposed to be. The lawsuit says who she was going after, and it's pretty doggone clear what that is. But that wasn't what they showed you there on their, that wasn't what they showed you at WKRN. That wasn't what they showed you. They showed you them and a bunch of other folks because they're going to make an example. They get this. They understand it and they're like, hey, we're going to make an example so that everybody understands this is not acceptable. We're going to try to hang as many of you Negroes as we can. Everybody going out. Everybody going out. All right. Now that we've gotten done with the opening festivities here, the real thing is, well, what happened? Did anything here happen? Quite a bit occurred, actually. So what I want to do is I want to read to you from the lawsuit itself, and hang on to your Batmobiles, kids, because this is a lot. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to skip down. I'm going to read the introduction to the lawsuit that her attorney put together, and then I'm going to actually skip down. As you can see, the plaintiff is Megan Olivia Hall versus the aforementioned. And the introduction says, Megan Hall was a vulnerable and optimistic 24-year-old woman who had applied to be a police officer in the city of Laverne. Where Miss Hall sought role models at her new job, she instead found predators. I'm reading for you. You know what? Why don't I do you a little bit better? Forget me reading it, giving you a still image. Let me show you what the lawsuit actually says. And if you all value this type of in-depth analysis with the details that you're not going to get anywhere else, go ahead and give me a thumbs up in the chat room and hit the likes button. It's over 3,000 people watching, but only a third of you have liked it. So if this is not what you're interested in because you don't think this is relevant, you might want to think it over again. You might want to think this over again because I'm going to connect some dots for you tonight. I don't do hype. I just do history. Now, it says Megan Hall was a vulnerable and optimistic 24-year-old woman who had applied to be a police officer in the city of Laverne. Where Miss Hall sought role models at her new job, instead she found predators. So it sounds like TJ Holmes at ABC. When there's a black man or black men involved with white women, all of a sudden you're a predator. Now, if you're a white man where black women are involved, they don't go around using the word predator. So, yeah, we've seen this old playbook before, haven't we? Since antebellum slavery. They go on to say here, in place of offering professional development, her supervisors and the chief of police groomed her for sexual exploitation. They colluded in using their authority to systematically disarm her resistance and entrap her in degrading and abusive sexual relationships, even sharing tips on the best ways to manipulate and exploit her. Megan Hall felt trapped in the role assigned to her at the city of Laverne. Now, you notice how many times they said trapped so far. Megan Hall felt trapped in the role assigned to her at the city of Laverne Police Department, and in an attempt to escape, she nearly killed herself. Then the city blamed her for everything. This lawsuit seeks justice for Megan Hall. So you can see already the manner in which they are framing this. They're going straight to predator. If you hadn't read the actual lawsuit, I have. It goes on later in the lawsuit to say Plaintiff Hall is an adult resident of Tennessee and a former junior officer of the City of Laverne Police Department. Ms. Hall may be contacted through undersigned counsel to this complaint. Defendant Burrell Chip Davis is an adult resident of Tennessee. Henry Ty McGowan is an adult resident of Tennessee and was a sergeant at the LPD. Defendant Lewis Powell is an adult resident of Tennessee and was a sergeant at the LPD. Defendant City of Laverne is a municipal government entity organized under the laws of the state of Tennessee and located in Rutherford County, Tennessee. Now, they go through a little bit of her, I guess, of a biography here. They go through a little bit of a biography, and this is the part I want you all to pay attention to. You didn't hear this anywhere else. You haven't heard this from any other commentators. You didn't hear these details. Line 12 here. Factual allegations. Plaintiff Megan Hall is a woman and a graduate of Middle Tennessee State University with a bachelor's degree in biology. In December 2020, pandemic, Ms. Hall applied for a job with the Laverne Police Department. She was 24 years old, 5 feet 4 inches tall, and weighed approximately 135 pounds. Part of the application process at LPD requires candidates to undergo a psychological evaluation. Ms. Hall expressed concern about the psychological evaluation with Sergeant Ty McGowan because Ms. Hall had a history of mental health problems, including alcohol abuse, anxiety, depression, and self-harm. This is what the lawsuit says was her mental and emotional state when applying at the police department. In case you were wondering, they're admitting this. By the way, when she applied, forgot to tell you here, Ms. Hall expressed concern about the psychological evaluation of Sergeant Ty McGowan because Ms. Hall had a history of mental health problems, including alcohol abuse, anxiety, depression, and self-harm. Yeah, and they're going to give her a gun to be a police officer. Next line. Sergeant McGowan told Ms. Hall the specific questions that would be asked and instructed her to lie about her history of mental health problems. Now, we don't have proof necessarily here yet that occurred, but this is what they're saying at this point is that Ty McGowan instructed her about the questions and instructed her to lie about her history of mental health problems. Ms. Hall was hired by the Laverne Police Department on February 9th, 2021. Ms. Hall was assigned to the second shift at LPD. Ms. Hall was the only woman assigned to that shift throughout her employment with LPD. From the beginning of her employment, Ms. Hall experienced a workplace environment permeated with sexual innuendo and sexually explicit behavior, including but not limited to, and fellas out there, pay attention and listen, male officers routinely discussing sexual preferences, sexual attractiveness, and sex acts they had performed on women. A male officer describing to Ms. Hall's superior officer that he wanted to, quote, take care of Ms. Hall and that he would, well, you can see what's on your screen there. So all the parents and whatnot put the kids to bed. This is the grown part. Thank you, Jadakiss. 2 male officers shared with one another within Miss Hall's presence and while on duty photographs of their genitalia. Sergeant William Watson on several occasions made sexually suggestive comments to Miss Hall. For example, in spring of 2022, Sergeant Watson commented on Miss Hall's tattoos and asked if she had any others. Miss Hall responded that they were covered by her uniform. Sergeant Watson asked to see them, offered his personal number, asked to meet up off duty, and offered to show her some workout moves with obvious sexual innuendo. But when you see the whole damn list, this looked like the whole police department. So basically, Megan Hall was the break room at the police department. But all right. It goes on to the next line to say that during her employment, Miss Hall was groomed to engage in sexually exploitative activities by men of the department, including Sergeant Powell, Sergeant McGowan, and Chief Davis. Sexual activity between a subordinate and superior within a bureaucratic hierarchy of authority should be examined as a potential abuse of authority. A superior officer in a bureaucratic hierarchy commits an abuse of authority by using the power of their office to pursue a sexual relationship with a subordinate, which is not a legitimate objective within the bureaucratic sphere. But as we saw in the case of T.J. Holmes, that doesn't matter. Now look at this. Dr. Grant Cinnamon's model, you all might want to look that guy up, by the way. Dr. Grant Cinnamon's model outlines 7 stages of the grooming process. This is the lawsuit now. Selecting the victim. Predators seek vulnerable targets in environments where the predators are likely to receive adoration, respect, and be seen as upstanding members of the community. They exploit the inherent trust given to positions of authority and power where it can be very difficult for a target to perceive the behavior as anything other than genuine care and concern. They wasn't asking no care and concern. Gathering information. Once a sexual predator has selected their target, the next stage in the grooming process is the development of a personal relationship in order to identify the target's needs and vulnerabilities. Do you know what this sounds like? These teachers grooming these kids. This sounds like these teachers grooming these kids to start questioning their sexuality. Sounds like that to me, but all right. Gaining personal connection, meeting the need and establishing credentials, priming the target. So you can see he went into a great amount of detail here. He's hoping to get some paper out of this. Creating the victim, instigating sexual contact. So he's controlling the victim. All right, you saw all of that. You see I'm skipping down through it. But let me go ahead and I will put a link in the chat room for you all here. I'll go ahead and put a link in the chat room for you here as well. So those of you watching live or recorded, you can go ahead and take a look at that. Let me go ahead and just pin that to the top of the chat while I'm at it. But that's what they're saying here. Now, listen to this next part. Sexual grooming by Sergeant Lewis Powell. By the way, I don't think he's the only sergeant. I think you have to be a sergeant to do the canine thing, if I'm not mistaken. So he's not the only sergeant, but I don't think he's the only person above her. I have to check on that to make sure. Because usually you have to have some type of credentials to do more than that. I'll have to check on it to be 100% certain. Not going to make a definitive statement yet. Have to check on it to be 100% certain. Because they already named somebody else here. They had already named another officer. That Winston fellow, they already named him. It says sexual grooming by Sergeant Lewis Powell. During Miss Hall's employment at the LPD, Sergeant Lewis Powell was one of her supervisors. Sergeant Powell is more than 15 years older than Miss Hall. Sergeant Powell's height is 6'2". Sergeant Powell weighed approximately 220 pounds at all times referenced within this complaint. Sergeant Powell identified Miss Hall as a young, vulnerable woman in a department dominated by aggressive older men. Did you all hear all this? So when I told you all before that when he was describing the way that, McGowan's physical build here at the beginning. When he was describing that, you might have thought, well, what in the world is he doing all that for? Yeah, because he wants to lay out the case of niggas running wild, and now he's getting to the whole point of it here. Let's get to miscegenation. So he starts describing he's 15 years older, he's taller, he weighs more. Really? So in other words, the only thing he left out is big black. Do you all understand that? This big black old predator. That's what I'm trying to show you here. He's describing him as old, big, and black. Old, big, and big. Only thing he left out was the black. That's the only thing he left out. Says Sergeant Powell identified Ms. Hall as a young, vulnerable woman in a department dominated by aggressive older men. Sergeant Powell used his position as second shift supervisor to befriend Ms. Hall and learned about Ms. Hall's desire to become a crime suppression unit officer. Wonder what that entails. Meeting up a lot of black dudes on the street. In early March 2022, Sergeant Powell targeted Miss Hall for sexual exploitation by abusing his knowledge of her personal circumstances, professional aspirations, and psychological vulnerabilities to coerce her into sexual activity. Here's the issue. There's a whole lot of damn names who got a whack at her who weren't sergeants. So there's the real issue with it is, by the way, there's a whole long list of names of people who weren't sergeants or superior officers, and they got their turn in the break room too. So, all right. Sergeant Powell learned that Miss Hall was going through the process of buying a home with her husband. How did he find that out? Sergeant Powell learned that she was going through the process of buying a home with her husband and that this process was extremely taxing on their relationship. Who told him that this was taxing on the relationship? I don't hear anything non-consensual yet, but okay. Sergeant Powell positioned himself as a reliable source of companionship and advice regarding Miss Hall's career and her marriage. Folks, this is the lawsuit. Sergeant Powell contacted Miss Hall through Facebook Messenger and offered his personal cell phone number. Fellas, Facebook is Fedbook. This is why y'all try to contact me on Facebook. I ain't saying nothing. Facebook is Fedbook. If you want to know how he got entrapped here, they tell you in the lawsuit. Oh, by the way, Facebook Messenger. Fedbook. Goes on to say Sergeant Powell complimented Ms. Hall's physique and offered to show her workout techniques. Brother, really? Physique? Really? Brother, what? Really? Seriously? I guess it's just slim pickings in Laverne, Tennessee, but all right, fine. Far be it from me. Leveraging his role with the crime suppression unit and his rank, Sergeant Powell promised to share with Ms. Hall training and tips in order to ensure advancement in her career. On or around March 15, 2022, Sergeant Powell would bring up the topic of sex while he was on patrol with Officer Hall. He stated that, you notice he called her Officer Hall this time, not Miss Hall. Notice the other times he kept referring, this attorney is a real slimeball. He referred to her as Miss Hall every other time, but when he got down here to talking about sex on patrol, Sergeant Powell would bring up the topic of sex while he was on patrol with Officer Hall. He stated that he had, quote, played the game before and, quote, could keep it cool at work. Brother, obviously you are not as good at that as you told yourself, but okay, fine. We don't talk about Fight Club. That's the first rule of Fight Club or whatever club y'all had. During one such conversation, Sergeant Powell directly propositioned Miss Hall for the first time. He stated that, quote, it's just sex. I can give you what your husband can't give you. Miss Hall responded that she was not interested. based on my cursory analysis of the facts, she was actually very interested, but okay. We're going to believe our lying eyes or her attorney. Because based on our evidence, she was actually very interested. Sergeant Powell persisted in requests for sex despite Miss Hall's resistance. I need to see documentation. Sergeant Powell stated that he was, quote, taking an interest in Miss Hall and that Miss Hall reminded him of himself when he first started at the department. Miss Hall looked up to Sergeant Powell as a professional role model and an authority figure within the department who had the ability to make or break her career. Despite Miss Hall's repeated denials, Sergeant Powell texted Miss Hall during shift about how they could have a secret sexual relationship. Eventually, Miss Hall gave in to Sergeant Powell's requests for sexual favors. Sexual favors? Favors? He was doing her the favor! And clearly she needed plenty of favors, but okay, fine. Sergeant Powell told Miss Hall to come in early for jiu-jitsu training. Is Michelle Bunchen around here somewhere? Where's Tom Brady? Somebody find, is Michelle Bunchen? Did Michelle Bunchen write this lawsuit? I'm asking. I gotta look into that. Sergeant Powell told Miss Hall to come in early for jiu-jitsu training at an off-site facility used by the department for such purposes. When Miss Hall arrived, Sergeant Powell kissed Miss Hall. He then pressured her to perform oral sex. Pressure? How much pressure was there? Okay, I'm disputing this one right out the back. Pressured her. Are you sure that she didn't run up and let him know, hey, I can outdo your woman? Are you pressure? I got real questions about he just met and pressured her for oral sex. Really? Really? You never heard Bill Clinton described as pressuring Monica Lewinsky, but okay. Let's find out how it went, by the way. He then pressured her to perform oral sex. Miss Hall expressed concern about the fact that they were engaging in this activity in a public place, but reluctantly agreed. Well, okay, it's a good thing we got two sentences here. He then supposedly pressured her to perform oral sex. She said, oh, but we're in a public place. Let me get to it. Let me hurry up and get to it. We're in a public place. Miss Hall explicitly stated that she did not want Sergeant Powell to leave any evidence. You all can see on the screen what she said. She explicitly stated that she didn't want Sergeant Powell to leave any evidence. Despite her expressed limitation, Sergeant Powell forcibly held Miss Hall's head down and redecorated. Really? Really? Within days of the jiu-jitsu training, boy, her attorney's a white male, and all I'm going to say is this lawsuit is written in a real player hater hating fashion. It really, really is. He went into details he didn't have to there. This was really some haterish thing. It's like he's basically doing her manifesto. Look how they deflowered these big black brutes. Take a look at how these big black brutes all surrounded her and deflowered her and desecrated her. So, boy, I mean, he's going in salacious detail to let everybody in the town know how bad it got. Within days of the jiu-jitsu training, Sergeant Powell took Miss Hall in his truck after shift for a sexual encounter. She expressed a boundary by requiring the use of a condom, and Sergeant Powell agreed not to risk pregnancy. However, during sex, Sergeant Powell removed the condom, forcibly held Miss Hall in place, and risked getting her pregnant. He said that it was, quote, okay because he had a vasectomy. Now, that would be problematic if he has actually disclosed that information to her, because the attorney then would be making the accusation or allegation that, oh, he had sexual talk with her. So if he's had a vasectomy, this could go against him. If he hasn't, hey, heifer set me up. Like I said, the details that you all have read and heard nowhere else. Goes on to say, on another occasion, while engaged in sexual activity, there's a whole lot of sex going on. Miss Hall noticed that, and she remembers every instance. Oh, y'all, take a look at this. Now we get down to some chingy. I said, D, get the camera. Then I thought about it. No footage. On another occasion, while engaged in sexual activity, Miss Hall noticed that Sergeant Powell was photographing or recording her without her consent. She became upset and demanded that Sergeant Powell delete the data. Boy, he was doing the most. If that's true, he was doing the most. He was just like, man, look here. First of all, brother, do you really want to document this one? I mean, I know it's a natural conclusion. It's a natural inclination. You really want to preserve this evidence, bruh? You really want this hard copy on your sexual resume, brother? You want this one? Of all the ones you could get, this is the one you're trying to preserve. Some of you fellas need to think things over. Y'all just do things. She became upset and demanded that Sergeant Powell delete the data. Sergeant Powell assured her that he deleted the data, but based on the February 6, 2023 investigative report by Frost Brown Todd LLP, independent investigation report, at least one of these non-consensual intimate visual depictions ended up in the possession of Sergeant McGowan and Chief Davis. Nigga, was he distributing? Boy, McGowan was just doing the most. He got the whole damn department caught up in this. So he couldn't just take some footage and go home. And he's like, let me show all the homies. Let me show everybody what's going on. Sergeant Powell regularly instructed Miss Hall to delete text messages evincing the relationship. That doesn't help you. People, for those of you who don't know, I worked in telecommunications, but any of you who have actually worked in telecommunications for any of the actual companies, not resellers like, Straight Talk or Cricket, if you actually work for the actual wireless providers, who own the network, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, then you know that they keep these records forever. For those of you who don't know, text messages, they don't keep them for 3 years or 7 years and delete them. I've told you all about this over a decade ago. There are actually 2 or 3 companies. One of the ones that they use on a regular basis is a company in Israel called Amdocs. And they keep all the records. Every telephone call that you've made back on the landlines, they can even keep records. Remember, through Echelon and Carnivore, they can keep records of every phone call you've made, including numbers that you didn't complete dialing. So if you started dialing a number, they keep that. But as far as text messages and phone calls, they keep those records forever now. They keep them forever. They never get rid of them. So if you have ever sent somebody a text message, just understand you're only one lawsuit away from them being able to retrieve that information. And no, don't think that these online programs like WhatsApp and things are going to save you either, unless you have one that deletes the data. But I don't believe any of them actually get rid of any of it. So for those of you who want to know, he screwed up as soon as he used his cell phone, because every attorney knows these telecommunication companies they don't keep the documentation themselves. They contract with a third, because by law they have to keep the documents for 7 years, but they contract with other companies who will store the data and the information forever, like Google does and Facebook do. So he's letting you all know, by the way, we got text messages and you can't get rid of those. They know where to go get them. All right, next up, Sergeant Powell persistently asked for sex during shift, and whenever the two were alone at LPD, Sergeant Powell would engage in sexually charged communications involving explicit descriptions of sex acts. On several occasions between March 2022 and October 2022, when Miss Hall would make a mistake on duty, Sergeant Powell excused her mistakes on the condition that she performed sex acts with him later. Sergeant Powell threatened that if anyone, quote, if anyone finds out or if you sleep with anyone else, then it's over. Things are going to be different. Work's going to be different. And as you can see, it's got annotations on it. So for those of you who don't know, in a lawsuit, when you see quotations around something, usually, not always, because sometimes it's paraphrasing or it's the testimony of the person speaking. Usually in a lawsuit with my attorneys, I don't let them use quotations unless you have documentation or something that backs it up. So by him using quotations, he's trying to give the implication that they've got documentation of some kind. Sergeant Powell used his authority as supervisor to seclude Miss Hall and coerce her into performing sex acts. On one such occasion, Sergeant Powell secluded Miss Hall at a police station and asked her to perform oral sex. Miss Hall declined, but Sergeant Powell would not take no for an answer. He begged Miss Hall to perform oral sex, stating that he had tension and really needed it. Brother, you really needed it from her? I'm trying to work with you here, but if this is true, you really needed it from her? All right. Let me just stop. Miss Hall felt that she had no choice but to continue providing. Of course, he's an officer in need. He's an officer in need, can't you see? She felt pressured to help another officer in need, officer down, all right, you get the point. Miss Hall felt that she had no choice but to continue to provide sexual favors to Sergeant Powell, so she performed oral sex as demanded. That means more than once. That means more than once. That means more than once. Now, you see this right here? It says number 13, Hall third interview transcript. 14, ID. So you're referring back to that one. So when you see this 13 and 14, this is her words. This is her saying that this is what he said. So remember, I just explained that to you. So those of you who don't know how lawsuits work, this is how lawsuits work, and this is how you can interpret it. Any of you who are attorneys or paralegals will bear me witness. Goes on to say the exploitative sexual relationship with Sergeant Powell impacted Miss Hall's mental health and contributed to worsening of her psychiatric symptoms, including anxiety and depression. Now, here's the problem. If you're opposing counsel, she's already got anxiety and depression before, and she already said that she's having marital problems, and she's bought a new house, so she has financial problems on top of her marital problems. But you're going to lay all that at the feet of Sergeant Powell? How can you say that he's responsible for making it, quote, worse? How can you say that? That doesn't make any sense. 57. Miss Hall felt that she couldn't get out of the relationship because Sergeant Powell refused to accept her wishes whenever she told him that she did not want to have sex with him or when she tried to end the relationship. On one occasion, Miss Hall tried to end the relationship. Sergeant Powell called her while heavily intoxicated. Sergeant Powell was crying and told Miss Hall he drank an entire bottle of Jack Daniel's whiskey. He threatened to kill himself, told Miss Hall, quote, "You did this to me," and asserted that Miss Hall was responsible for his imminent suicide. Miss Hall continued to experience anxiety. You said that and kept going? So is he dead? No, he's not dead. All right. Miss Hall continued to express anxiety, depression, and difficulty in concentrating at work because of her inability to escape the relationship with Sergeant Powell. On Memorial Day weekend 2022, Miss Hall attended a party hosted by LPD Sergeant Eric Stratz and attended by other LPD officers. The only other woman at the party was Officer Magliosho's wife, who left early in the evening. Miss Hall posted on Facebook a picture of herself in a bathing suit lying on the houseboat. Miss Hall posted a Facebook picture of herself in a bathing suit lying on the houseboat. LPD Sergeant William Watson commented on Miss Hall's Facebook post. Miss Hall and Officer Maglioccio walked his wife back to her car, then secluded themselves and had sex before returning to the houseboat. Well, interesting there, huh? Yes, interesting there. She's helping the rest. By the way, you heard that they're mentioning other sergeants, right? Remember what I said before? They're mentioning other sergeants. They didn't just stop at the black ones. They're mentioning other sergeants, and yet those other sergeants aren't named in the lawsuit. They mentioned other sergeants in the lawsuit, but those other sergeants are not defendants in the lawsuit. Only the black ones. Only the black ones. The white ones are not the defendants in the lawsuit. She didn't name all of them. She only named the black ones. This is what everybody's leaving out. You can sit up here and say, well, is a black police department? No. I'm bringing you the specific details of the lawsuit. There's a whole bunch of folk, but she's only suing the black ones, even though they name more sergeants than just the black ones. That's my point. The lawsuit specifically names more sergeants, but they're only suing the black ones. So they're trying to clean up her reputation on the block. They're trying to clean up her reputation in the city, in the state, and on the block. I'm not giving you conjecture or guesswork. I'm showing you the absolute proof so that nobody can jump up and make a monkey of you. You sit up here trying to guess and assume what it was, and somebody will show you that it's not true and make you look like a fool. I'm bringing you the specific information and documentation that shows, oh, no. She's only going after the black ones. She's letting the white ones go. She's trying to clean up her reputation. Miss Hall and Officer Maglioccio walked his wife back to her car, then secluded themselves and had sex before returning to the houseboat. Man, look here. This chick is down and dirty. Down and dirty. I'm gonna get me a white girl. Man, look here. Come on now. When they returned, Officer Maglioccio digitally touched the visibly intoxicated Miss Hall in a hot tub within full view of the other LPD officers. Now, folks, what they're describing here is sexual assault. They're describing sexual assault here because they're saying that she was intoxicated, therefore she can't consent. Okay, but for the white officer, they're not claiming he's a predator. He's not named in the lawsuit. They're describing what legally would be sexual assault, but they're not naming him as a defendant in the lawsuit. After several minutes, this lawsuit can't even defend her well. After several minutes of digital touching, Miss Hall pushed away Officer Magliocio's hand from her crotch and said no. 10 or 20 minutes later, Officer Maglioccio poured vodka down Miss Hall's throat. Afterward, Miss Hall and Officer Maglioccio had sexual intercourse in the bathroom of the houseboat. Wait a minute. There's a whole lot going on at this party, isn't it? The other fellas must have been standing around saying, damn, I hope Maglioccio hurries up and gets done. I'm just saying this is a whole lot going on, isn't it? The events occurring at Sergeant Stat's party became widely known within the LPD. Yeah, they're probably all watching it. She's the only female there. Sergeant Powell told Miss Hall that such flagrant sexual activity could lead to trouble. Sergeant Powell continued to leverage his position of authority to extract compliance with his sexual demands from Miss Hall. Brother! What are you fellas doing? Well, at least that's her version of the story, at least till they respond. Sergeant Powell texted Miss Hall that under the pretense of offering additional, quote, training opportunities, and Miss Hall would make excuses to avoid participating. Sergeant Powell did not accept Miss Hall's rejection. He told Miss Hall, quote, "You owe me." Miss Hall submitted to further sexual acts with Sergeant Powell through October 2022. Well, apparently she did. All he had to say was, "You owe me," and she said, "Okay, yeah, you're right. You owe me. Oh, okay, I'm on my way." Sergeant Powell secluded Miss Hall during a shift at an archery range and stuck his hands down the front of her pants. Brother, I hope you wash them hands. Oh, don't just go. We're in the COVID era, but with her, it's a whole different level. Wash them hands, brother. Sergeant Powell provided Miss Hall with special treatment at work and made sure she knew that he, quote, wouldn't be doing this if they didn't have a sexual relationship. Sergeant Powell coerced Miss Hall to engage in sex acts despite her rejection and non-consent. After violating Miss Hall, these are the words in the lawsuit now. These are the words in the lawsuit. After violating, she comes pre-violated. After violating Miss Hall, Sergeant Powell said things like, quote, "I could tell you really weren't into that. You must really care about me. Thank you for letting me complete. It shows how you really care about me." When Sergeant Powell wanted sex, he refused to take no for an answer. He continued demanding sex, saying things like, "We'll do it tomorrow," or "I've done so much for you, I've helped you," and quote, "I've done so much for you in your personal life." The sexually coercive environment on the second shift of the Laverne Police Department triggered increasingly severe symptoms of mental illness in Miss Hall. These symptoms impacted Miss Hall's ability to perform her job by impairing her ability to concentrate on tasks such as driving. On July 14, 2022, Miss Hall reached out to Sergeant Powell to convey her psychological distress and its impact on her ability to perform her duties. Sergeant Powell told Miss Hall that if she sought help for her psychological distress, she would be portrayed as the weak female officer, and no one would trust her. He warned her against reporting her issues and advised her to, quote, "suck it up," no, don't do that, and focus on work. Within hours after the call to Sergeant Powell, Miss Hall was involved in an on-duty collision. Miss Hall was operating her patrol vehicle on Waldron Road at the Murfreesboro Road intersection. She attempted to merge lanes but failed to yield to another vehicle, causing a collision and property damage to both vehicles. So she's blaming him for a fender bender. Do you all hear this? She's blaming Officer K9 for a fender bender. So she's saying that she had a fender bender at work. Y'all are thinking that she hit somebody else and the car flipped over 3 times. No, she had a fender bender at work because she wasn't watching a lane change, so she's blaming him. Y'all, we are beyond Karen. We're beyond Karen. We're in full-blown Susan territory. This is what the lawsuit says, is she's blaming him. If he and I hadn't been having sex, I wouldn't have had that fender bender. On October 21st, 2022, Miss Hall was involved in another collision. A collision with a car, folks, not with another person. At least I assume it wasn't with another person. She was leaving the Laverne police station to respond to an assault, but pulled out in front of a van and caused a wreck. She was injured and transported to Stonecrest Medical Center for treatment. So in other words, she's a bad. I'd like to see the rest of her driving history. I'd like to see the rest of her driving history and see if she's a person who has frequent accidents. She was injured and transported to Stonecrest Medical Center for treatment. I'm sure she was. Sexual grooming by Sergeant Henry Ty McGowan. Oh yeah, folks, he's going person by person, case by case. Sexual grooming by Sergeant Henry Ty McGowan. Sergeant McGowan was a supervisor at the Laverne Police Department during Miss Hall's employment. Sergeant McGowan is more than 20 years older than Miss Hall. Sergeant McGowan is 6 feet 1 inches tall. Sergeant McGowan weighed over 240 pounds at all times relevant to this complaint. So we back to the big and black accusation. I'll show you the lawsuit. We're back to they were big black men all over this little white girl. He said everything except they black. Look at them. They're big and old and big and mature and big and big and big and, just really big. Anything else that goes with big. You mean big and black? If you assume something, but yeah, he's saying everything except big and black. They're just big. During her employment with the LPD and within the workplace environment, Sergeant McGowan continuously engaged in sexually charged behavior, including but not limited to, oh boy, smacking Miss Hall on the buttocks at the police station, referring to himself as Papa Bear, and hugging Miss Hall so tightly that he would lift her off the ground. Y'all don't think she would enjoy that? During some of these hugs, Miss Hall felt a bulge that she believed to be Sergeant McGowan's semi-erect member pressing against her. Okay, it could have been his wallet. Propositioning Miss Hall for sex, specifically stating, I wanna smack you. Please use me for sex, and I wanna do something with his mouth. We should do it dinner time or any other time that you are consuming food. Only this is not food. This is the thought cop. All right. Making sexual moaning noises when Miss Hall would walk into the room. Making comments about how good Miss Hall looked in her uniform pants. Offering to pay if Miss Hall would set up an OnlyFans account managed by Sergeant McGowan. Let me go ahead and show the documentation here. This is what they're claiming in the lawsuit. By the way, if you like the fact that I went into the details so you all wouldn't have to, so we get straight to the point, give me a like in the chat room here. It's over 5,000 people watching here live. He was offering to set up an OnlyFans account managed by Sergeant McGowan where Miss Hall would have sex with other men so Sergeant McGowan could watch. Oh, well, he saw her as a profit center. He wasn't trying to exploit her. He was like, hey, this is a profit center. This is a profit center. We're going to be mad at him? All right. Offering to pay and create an account on Feet Finder for Mrs. Hall. This brother wasn't trying to exploit her. This brother was trying to get paid. He was like, hey, we need a little bit extra money. It's a pandemic. It's inflation. This brother wasn't trying to exploit anybody. He was just trying to make a few extra dollars on the side. He was trying to set up some e-commerce. Come on now. They're admitting it. He was just trying to set up some e-commerce. A brother can't make a Shopify. Between February 2021 and October 2022, Ms. Hall repeatedly declined to participate in sexual activity with Sergeant McGowan. Despite Ms. Hall's repeated rejections of Sergeant McGowan's sexual advances, Sergeant McGowan continued to request such favors. In early November 2022, Ms. Hall reached out to Sergeant McGowan for guidance on how to deal with the psychological stress that she was experiencing resulting from her circumstances at the LPD. Sergeant McGowan offered to meet her at his house. So she said that she was experiencing distress from the circumstances at meeting other officers at their house. She's expressing that she's distressed from meeting other officers at their house. So he said, sounds serious. Why don't you come meet me at my house? Sergeant McGowan promised that he could protect Miss Hall's position in the police department. He mentioned that her on-duty auto collisions could prevent her from getting promoted, but that he had the power to ensure Miss Hall got the promotion. Contemporaneously with these promises, Sergeant McGowan propositioned Miss Hall for sexual intercourse. Miss Hall agreed. That shouldn't be a surprise. She always agrees. We're not breaking news. She always agreed. Miss Hall's mental condition continued to deteriorate between November and December 2022. Attempted sexual grooming by Chief Burrell Chip Davis. Now, this is one in particular here. You gotta be careful if you're gonna go after a police chief, but this attorney is gonna do it. At the time Miss Hall joined the LPD, Chief Davis was the highest ranking commanding officer of the department. Chief Davis is more than 20 years older than Miss Hall. Chief Davis and other supervisors at the LPD, including McGowan and Powell, used promises of promotions, favorable treatment, and special training as tools to coerce and manipulate junior female officers, including Miss Hall, into performing sex acts on and providing intimate visual depictions to said supervisors. Chief Davis encouraged this behavior and shared in the pornography and sexual fantasy of mutually abusing Miss Hall with his trusted supervisor, Ty McGowan. So you see what they say? You're big, you're black, and you got a henchman. You get that? You're a big black gang. Did you all get what he keeps doing? You're a big black gang. It goes on to say here, I want to show you a screen capture from the lawsuit here. Here's a screen cap so you can see what it says. Chief Davis told investigators that in a text exchange dated October 25th, 2022, Sergeant McGowan sent him a photograph of a black male foot inside Officer Hall's mouth. Immediately thereafter, Chief Davis said the following exchange occurred between he and Sergeant McGowan. Chief Davis, who that? Sir, no, don't bring the boot in this. Don't bring the boot in this. Louisiana ain't got a damn thing to do with this. No, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't get the boot involved. Don't get the boot involved. We ain't got nothing to do with that. Don't drag us into this. No. Chief Davis, who that? Sergeant McGowan, Hall, Lewis. Boy, do you know what that sounds like to me? Y'all see that right there? He on it again. He swears he ain't. She nor her husband took that picture. Sergeant McGowan, she has a tight little rump though. Chief Davis, yep. Do y'all see that? Boy, it's starting to come together here. Oh, Powell was Powell player hating, y'all? Was Powell hating? I'm sorry, was McGowan hating? Was Sergeant McGowan hating? Because it sounds like McGowan was hating. I'm not trying to start up no mess. It sounds like McGowan was hating. Y'all see that? He went to the police chief. Hey, chief. Hey, take a look at this right here, chief. Who that? It's Hall and Lewis. He on again. Yeah, man, he swears he ain't, though. He ain't left none for me. She ain't responded. She ain't come back. She ain't left out of the house. He ain't left nothing for me. He ain't leave nothing for me, chief. What the hell is going on up there in Tennessee? This sounds like some Memphis mess. What's going on in Tennessee? The exchange of messages continued on October 28, 2022. Chief Davis, the F. Lewis saying to these hoes, cause normal pimp S ain't working. Y'all, this the police chief. This is the chief. Where'd they get the chief from? Redbone's Bar? Where'd they get the chief from? Thunderbird Nightclub? This is the chief. At least they allege this is the chief. You see the chief, everybody's jealous because they ain't get their turn and everybody else get it. Come on now. Chief Davis, the F. Lewis doing, the F. Lewis saying to these hoes, cause normal pimp S ain't working. Sergeant McGowan, no effing clue. He killing it. Chief Davis, maybe Goody S. McGowan, gotta be. I can't do it. Gorilla Pimp. McGowan. Brother, it wasn't like you wasn't. So you wasn't, you didn't touch it, Nina McGowan? Is that what you're saying? I would never do nothing like that, man. Okay. All right. Let me just keep reading here. Chief Davis, only way I know. Chief Davis, is you claiming you gorilla pimping too, bro? Is that it? I'm trying to work with you. I'm trying to work with y'all fellas, but y'all making it hard. You ain't giving me much to work with. You're not giving me a lot to work with, fellas. I'm trying to help you, but you're not giving me a lot to work with. This is the police chief. Sergeant Gowan, gotta be. I can't do it. Gorilla Pimp. Chief Davis, only way I know. Chief Davis, does she talk to you? Sergeant McGowan, nope. She getting too much attention. Chief Davis, oh, I see. Sergeant McGowan, it's all good. Chief Davis, I saved her for the last time. I wish I could tell who she effing can't do. I wish I could tell her who she effing can't do S for her. Sergeant McGowan, I wish I could too. Then we could both play. Chief Davis, can't F Lewis though, cause the pics are fire. Really? McGowan, didn't you offer to take her to your house, McGowan? I'm not saying that I believe it. McGowan, but if Powell was in the wrong, I'm just saying, but brother, so you wasn't doing nothing? That's strange, because I went over the paperwork and a cursory review of the paperwork and says, the survey says, okay, but when you talk to everybody else, he don't want to claim it. So when everybody else was you talking about Powell, but McGowan didn't want to claim it? All right, McGowan didn't want to claim it, and the police chief playing coy, but okay. All right. As demonstrated in his October 28, 2022 text exchange, Chief Davis became frustrated by his comparative failure to groom Miss Hall for sexual exploitation. Chief Davis repeatedly attempted to seclude Miss Hall so that he could use the authority of his high office, or as he described it, normal pimp S, to induce Miss Hall to gratify his own sexual desires. So basically everyone, it seemed like everyone in the town, but basically everyone at the police department and now her attorney, everybody's jealous because somebody else got to lay up. So that's basically what that we need. More women in Laverne, Tennessee is what we need. We don't need more police. We don't need more businesses. We need more females under the age of 30 is what we need in Laverne, Tennessee. Clearly there is a drought. If there's this much fighting going over on this one, behind this one, yes, we need more females in Laverne, Tennessee. That's what the real problem is, if I may give my assessment of the situation. That's what's missing. That's missing. Y'all, look here. They doing there's just too much going on for her. I mean, all of this commotion for her? All of this commotion for her. Because if I read this to you, you'd be like, okay, this must be a bad broad. Then I let her come to the... So y'all are willing to risk it all. Give up your jobs, give up your careers, give up your pensions. You're willing to risk it all for her. Right there. This is it right here. We going all the way. All right. Chief Burrell Davis explicitly and implicitly engaged in sexually charged behavior permeating the workplace at LPD, including but not limited to A, asking Ms. Hall to come to his office and dance for him. B, providing his personal number and suggesting lunch dates with him. C, complaining about his marital problems and stating that he is lonely. D, characterizing Ms. Hall's clothing as, quote, hot girl summer S. Example, D, Facebook Messenger messages with Chip Davis. E, stating to Ms. Hall that he will, quote, harass her and, quote, make it fun. Okay, here's my issue. You supposed to be damn me police officers. You supposed to know that they can go get all these records. Y'all supposed to know that because that's your job to go get the records. So just normal pimp stuff is apparently normal dumb stuff. Man, you better hope the attorney is just making this up or they're ad-libbing it. You better hope that's the case. Black Voltron, you damn right. This is a blaxploitation flick gone crazy as hell. This is crazy as hell. This is a Dolomite movie gone all the way wrong. Asking whether Miss Hall preferred dark, white, or milk chocolate with sexual undertones. Oh, is the attorney hating now? Is her attorney hating? Did that hurt his feelings to say that? Is the attorney hating? I don't know. Soliciting pornographic images of Miss Hall from LPD supervisors without her consent. How many supervisors? Because she's only suing 2. How many other supervisors? Because she's only suing 2. So I'd like to know how many. Because she's only suing 2. The black ones. Soliciting pornographic images. Actively encouraging Sergeant McGowan to engage in sexually exploitative behaviors like non-consensual sharing of pornographic images and participating in degrading sexual activities with authority figures in the department. Fetish. Threatening to fire Miss Hall unless she went along with his demands for sexually inappropriate activities. Okay, did she actually do it because she did it for everybody else? She broke it down for everybody else. So if she didn't break it down for him, explain to me why. Now listen to this next part. The conspiracy to sexually exploit junior female officers at the Laverne Police Department. The attorney's calling it a whole damn conspiracy now. Defendants Powell, McGowan, Davis, and unnamed third parties agreed to use their positions of authority within the Laverne City Police Department to groom junior female officers, including Miss Hall. Okay, but she's only named 3 of them. What about all the others? There's not a single white male superior officer or white male period on her damn hit list. It's only the black ones. What about all the white ones then? Okay, I'll try to go with you here. Why are they unnamed? She naming everything else. Why is it unnamed? Unnamed third parties agreed to use their positions of authority within the Laverne Police Department to groom junior female officers, including Miss Hall, into acting as sex objects who accept without overt resistance unwanted sexual advances within the workplace, performing sex acts in response to promises of favorable treatment and or threats of unfavorable treatment and termination, and providing intimate visual depictions within the meaning of 15 U.S.C. 6851. Defendants Powell, McGowan, Davis, and unnamed third parties agreed to ignore the written policies in place governing workplace relationships promulgated by the city of Laverne in order to facilitate the grooming of female officers into performing sex acts and providing these defendants with intimate visual depictions. Defendants Powell, McGowan, and Davis and unnamed third parties maintained a custom within the LPD of permitting supervisors to use promises of promotions, favorable treatment, and special training as tools to coerce and manipulate junior female officers, including Ms. Hall. So, the defendants and unnamed people made a custom of permitting supervisors to seclude and threaten junior female officers with demotion or termination. Defendants Powell, McGowan, and unnamed parties agreed to share information with one another concerning successful grooming measures employed against female junior officers which resulted in sex acts or the production of intimate visual depictions in order to enhance their proficiency in exploitation of these women, or as they described it, pimping. Boy, the attorney went the extra step on that one, didn't he? Y'all, this is just hating on black men right here. When you think about it, he's taking issue with the terms. Look at that. He couldn't just leave it at they use these as to for the production of intimate visual depictions in order to enhance their proficiency in exploitation of these women, or as they described it, pimping. As they described it over there in the hood, they call it pimping. Okay. Yeah, this sounds like the Central Park 5 in Wilden. As they described it, pimping. Chief Davis acted as the leader of the agreement to sexually exploit female junior officers at the LPD. Folks, this is like, when he said conspiracy, they ain't lying. This is damn near a RICO charge. Do you understand that? This is damn near a RICO charge. If they try to hit him up with McGowan talking about, hey, let's get you an OnlyFans, there goes the financial element of it. Do you understand that for all intents and purposes, they are effectively describing a RICO? No, seriously, they're describing a RICO. Every time they started with the Italian mafia, now the only folks that want to hit with RICO charges are black folk. They're describing a de facto RICO indictment with Chief Davis as the leader of the criminal organization. Sergeant McGowan acted as Chief Davis's second in command in the agreement to sexually exploit junior officers at the LPD by conveying information and intimate visual depictions between Davis and other participants. In furtherance of the agreement, folks, anybody who's read a RICO charge, anybody who's ever read a RICO indictment knows furtherance of a criminal organization. If you've ever read a RICO indictment, that's the word it uses. The furtherance of a criminal enterprise. That's why I'm saying this guy is basically writing up a RICO indictment. To any of you who read a RICO indictment, you know it literally says the words furtherance of a criminal enterprise. In furtherance of the agreement to sexually exploit junior female officers at the LPD, Sergeant McGowan shared Ms. Hall's psychological vulnerabilities with Sergeant Powell and Chief Davis in order to enhance their ability to victimize Ms. Hall. In furtherance of the agreement to sexually exploit female junior officers at the LPD, Defendant Powell exploited Ms. Hall's psychological vulnerabilities and abused his position of authority at the LPD by offering training in exchange for submission to his sexual demands, offering advancement in Ms. Hall's career in exchange for submission to sexual demands, trading sex acts for overlooking on the job mistakes, and threatening to make Ms. Hall's conditions of employment more difficult if she did not continue to participate in sex acts. Defendant McGowan groomed Ms. Hall as described supra in furtherance of the agreement to sexually exploit junior officers at the LPD. So they named McGowan, Powell, and Davis as supra furtherance of the agreement to sexually exploit junior officers at the LPD without naming any of the junior officers, without naming any of them. In furtherance of the agreement, I'm skipping down a little bit because you get the idea here. Oh, one more thing. Let me read line number 114. Keep this in mind. On and after October 1st, 2022, Defendant Powell disseminated Ms. Hall's intimate visual depictions to third parties, including Defendant McGowan, by use of a cell phone connected to internet and telecommunications networks capable of transmitting and receiving data by electronic means. In other words, they're calling into play violation of like video voyeur laws or things like that. They only bother to look for white women. If you're a black woman, don't expect any protection. Number 115, in furtherance of the agreement to sexually exploit junior female officers at the LPD, Chief Davis maintained a, quote, secret phone that he referred to as, oh boy. Chief Davis, okay, yes, I was, yes. Patton, okay. So this document here says Chip's secret phone. Do you have a third cell phone? Old boy is a nickname Chief Davis used to describe a personal burner cell phone. Chief Davis told us he no longer owns that phone. Old boy is a cell phone connected to internet and telecommunications networks capable of transmitting and receiving data by electronic means. On or about October 31st, 2022, Chief Davis used Old Boy to solicit intimate visuals depictions of Ms. Hall from Sergeant McGowan in furtherance of the agreement to sexually exploit junior female officers at the LPD. On October 31st, 2022, Defendant McGowan used a cell phone connected to the internet and telecommunications networks to disseminate Ms. Hall's intimate visual depictions to Chief Davis. On December 1st, 2022, Defendant McGowan used the phone to transmit intimate pictures of her. So they're naming the dates that the pictures were sent. So they're basically describing each of the instances and the dates the pictures were sent. You see a screen capture insert in here. On December 1st, 2022, a week prior to Officer Hall's hospitalization, Sergeant McGowan sent Chief Davis another video of a nude Officer Hall masturbating. This one 30 seconds in length. The printed versions of the text we reviewed and that Chief Davis authenticated do not reflect any conversation before or after the second interview. So in other words, before or after the second video. So what they're saying is that they didn't really have to coerce her into that. She kind of just sent it without being asked. But she's going to claim, oh, well, I was coerced. And so, that's coming. That's coming. Now, listen to this next part. Ms. Hall did not provide intimate visual depictions to Defendant Powell or Defendant McGowan as an affirmative, conscious, and voluntary decision free from force, fraud, misrepresentation, and coercion. Ms. Hall never provided intimate visual depictions to Chief Davis, nor did she consent for any other person to provide such images to Chief Davis. On December 8, 2022, Ms. Hall's mental health deteriorated to such a degree that she became suicidal. On December 8, 2022, Ms. Hall began to cut herself in an effort to, quote, work herself up to the ultimate act of taking her own life. December 8, 2022, Ms. Hall was committed for psychiatric treatment at St. Thomas Ascension for 72 hours, where she received treatment for bipolar disorder. Folks, she didn't become bipolar that month or that year. She had been bipolar the entire time. She's been bipolar. But now the attorneys have shown up, and for the purposes of getting the check, we're going to claim that it was the black males and only the black men who are responsible for her mental health deteriorating when you actually take a look at the lawsuit and you've been able to clearly hear from my reading of it, this was actually pre-existing. Upon information and belief, Sergeant McGowan feared that Ms. Hall disclosed to her medical providers details concerning the sexual exploitation he inflicted upon her. This fear motivated Sergeant McGowan to cause a report regarding Ms. Hall's sexual interactions with other officers to be presented to Laverne Mayor Jason Cole. So let me go ahead and show this. Now, here's where things came down, is what they're saying. So she got admitted to the hospital for having a bipolar episode and hurting herself. What they're not saying here is where she was when this happened. Was she at home? I'm asking these questions. Was she at home with her husband? Was she at home having problems with her husband? Was she at home engaging in an argument with her husband? Was this following a disagreement or argument with her husband? Did this come after talking to her husband? And then she started doing this? And then she got hospitalized? But the next thing it shows here is apparently after she got hospitalized, the fellas got afraid that it was a Tony Soprano situation. She's going to talk to the medical establishment. Oh, we better out it before she outs it. At least that's the depiction that they're giving. On December 8, 2022, she was committed for psychiatric treatment at St. Thomas. Upon information and belief, Sergeant McGowan feared that Ms. Hall disclosed to her medical providers details concerning the sexual exploitation. Mayor Jason Cole, acting on the information provided to him from Sergeant McGowan's cell phone, contacted Director of Human Resources Andrew Patton and reported that, quote, Officer Megan Hall was having intimate relationships with other members of the Laverne Police Department. The City of Laverne Human Resources Director and Andrew Patton received this information, conveyed it to Chief Davis, and commenced an investigation based on the allegations. So that is how it came to light. I'll go a little bit further here, and then we'll stop, because it has a ways to go, but you've heard all the pertinent details. Immediately after the investigation began, Chief Davis and Sergeant McGowan agreed to share confidential information gained by Chief Davis through exercise of his official authority as the ultimate policymaker at the LPD in order to thwart discovery of the agreement to sexually exploit junior female officers at the LPD. They keep saying junior female officers plural, but then they don't name the others. Aware that now this is from the screen capture, as you can see here, aware that Officer Hall had been involved in a sexual relationship with one of her supervisors, Chief Davis did not inform the city's Human Resources Department that what he had learned about Officer Hall's hospitalization. Instead, printed copies of text messages that we reviewed show that on 12:02 p.m., December 9, 2022, Chief Davis texted Sergeant McGowan, Chief Davis, PMAG trying to put up smoke and mirrors and is going to come back to bite him. Sergeant McGowan, really? Already? Chief Davis, he telling Conrad everything, but I effing her. Sergeant McGowan, LMAO, I'll tell y'all about these grinning niggas. I'm going to tell y'all about these Negroes who love to sit up here and laugh all the time. I don't like laughing Negroes around me. This is dead ass serious. McGowan, you about to find yourself in the middle of the damn trap and you LOLing? You laughing? This is no laughing matter. And he's sitting up here laughing. I'm going to tell you about these giggly dudes. Y'all wonder why I go in on giggly dudes? This is the problem with little giggly dudes. He's up here giggling. The police chief ain't giggling. Chief Davis, between you and I, if it comes out about Lewis and he hasn't said anything, he is toast. Chief Davis, supervisor and officer, at least demotion. Sergeant McGowan, I've told him until I'm blue in the face, bro. He ain't listening. Wants to see how it's going to play out. So you can see how that happened. There are a number of lessons to be learned here. There's probably going to be more. We're only hearing one side of the story, so I caution everyone. I am not coming to not a single one conclusion right now. I don't have all the information. We've only got their lawsuit and what they claim are screenshots from the actual investigation. But just so you be aware, this is the way they're characterizing it. I called tonight's program Openly Testing Black Gullibility. And here is the issue. Did y'all really think that all of y'all were going to be able to go in on her and it wasn't going to blow up in everybody's damn face? Were you really that gullible? Where y'all are literally sitting up here arguing about whose turn it is and who it was, and oh, she was somebody. Y'all done took her to the damn office party, and dudes is sitting up here breaking it down behind the houseboat. The fella done put his wife in an Uber, and I guess his wife said, okay, let her take care of you tonight because I don't want to fool with you. And these dudes, I mean, for months and months, it's just, they ready to wait around for it. No, everybody on the screen you see right now had their turn, except the police chief, who apparently might have been a little salty he didn't get his. But how in the world did you not think this was going to blow up in your face? How did you not think that? How did you possibly think that this ends well? How did you possibly think? Here's the bigger question you need to be asking, you goofy ass. How in the hell did you possibly think that she wasn't eventually gonna talk? 400 years, 500 years of history in the Western Hemisphere. What made you think that in Tennessee she wasn't gonna snitch? What made you think she wasn't gonna talk? Now, we don't know if she told the folks at the hospital what caused it. We don't know. We don't know yet. But these fellas were shook enough that they didn't even wait. Dude, if you were that worried that she was gonna talk, what in the world were you doing? Where's qualified immunity when you need it? No, not for Negroes. Negroes don't get qualified immunity. Nope. You ain't immune for nothing. You're not even immune from the stuff you didn't do. Even if you didn't do it, you're still not immune from it. Let me correct my microphones here. I think I got a little bit of audio there that should fix it. There's a hell of a whole lot to be done here. There's a hell of a whole lot to be done. And a whole lot to be learned. That was just case study number one, because just understand, no, I don't believe everything she said. I don't believe it. Not at all. Of course not. But I want you to also remember here that this is a lesson in gullibility. You shouldn't have to be told this. And when you got this many willing to sit up here and get knocked down like dominoes, what the hell is going on? So the crucible of the lessons of history are totally wasted on this bunch. Testing your gullibility. Testing your gullibility. I wish I could tell you it ends there, but I'm just starting with the specific case in Laverne, Tennessee. Next, we're going to take it national. Next, we're going to take it national. Because there's a whole lot more to get into here. Before I do that, I'm going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. Y'all didn't think it was going to be this heavy this weekend. This weekend, we've been hitting on all cylinders. I ain't taking my foot off the gas. We just getting started. When I come back, we started with the local. Now we're going to take it national. In the meantime here, before I do, I want to thank everyone, and I do mean everybody who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Cash App, Super Chat. So thank you very much for your support. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back, we started with the local, we end with the national. This is the Black Channel.
Venark Motion Pictures, your leading production house for handmade, high-end movies for us, by us. Grab your popcorn and drinks as Venark Motion Pictures presents you with binge-worthy visual entertainment that will leave you breathless. Stream all our titles for free. Visit our website to see Noxious, Noxious 2, Cold Case, and Valley of the Queens. Planned Obsolescence. These power-packed, innovative, and unforgettable flicks tick the boxes of all you could ever want in a movie. And coming soon to keep you at the edge of your seat. Await our most anticipated movie release. Escape from Velocity. Venark Motion Pictures. Broadcast excellence. Look for us on Tubi, Amazon, and wherever movies are streamed.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' natural body butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. My name is Joe Jackson. I'm a foundational Black American, and I entered the field of IT with the goal of helping the family globally. The industry's been changing, and I've learned a lot. But how did we get here? How do we navigate issues we face in the workplace? How can we get our house in order? Read The Concept and Intricacies of Being Black in IT, now on Amazon, as well as the best-selling Guide to Being Black in IT. Go to beingblackинit.com.
More Threads, a brand owned by a descendant of Black American freedmen, was created to uniquely address Black American history and contributions that have been intentionally hidden and suppressed. Use their apparel and more to learn and share the Black American history of Black inventions, heroes, towns, Black business districts, and more. Sign up and support not only a Black-owned business, but a movement at www.morethread.co.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. And we're discussing about gullibility. We're discussing about gullibility. And some folks are not learning or taking heed of the lessons. But there are some folks who want to test us. They want to see how far they can go with it. They want to see how much they can get away with. And one of the things they want to see if they can get away with is see if we're paying attention on a national level or if we're not. So, case in point here, everybody's good friend here, Jim Crow Joe Biden, as you can see, he posted here a few days ago, we cut poverty among Black children by more than half in 2021 because of the child tax credit. Congress make it permanent. So in other words, he's trying to tell you that he's doing things for black folk. In other words, he's now telling you that the child tax credit, that has been raising black children out of poverty, had nothing to do with him, but okay. He's saying the child tax credit, why, that is doing something specific. Don't you see? I specifically mentioned what it did for black peoples. That is the child tax credit. Why, that is reparations. I mean, a direct benefit for black people. Now vote for me. That is a direct benefit. Yeah, you all thought he was going to be gone with it. You thought he was going to stop. Hell no. He's like, oh no, let me see how far I can push this. Let me see if I can get away with it. Let me see if I can get away with it. So that's what he's doing now. The child tax credit. Next, he's going to say that your income tax refund. Next up, he's going to be talking about that. So yeah, old Joe Biden is on the job, letting you know is hey, the foolery continues. Now, the comments section has really been roasting on him. The comments section has really been roasting. So it's certainly an issue here. They really are roasting him. But yeah, you can already see he's tuning this one up. Well, if they say I didn't do anything for black folk, tell them about the child tax credit. Do you know how silly and gullible you got to be to sit up here and invoke the child tax credit as some sort of benefit specifically for black people, especially when it's not specifically for black people? You know how gullible you got to be? But then again, the politicians have been conditioned to believe that we are gullible. They've been conditioned to believe that about us. And some of them have gotten ultra bold about it, as promised last night. Oh, I ain't forgot about you, Mayor Reed. I ain't forgot about you. Oh, Mayor Reed showed you that when they send these Negroes to us, when they pick our political representatives for us, they've got more contempt for us. They consider it to be a badge of honor that they have more contempt for us than the dominant society does. From AL.com there, as you can see, they're talking about Mayor Stephen Reed. A series of audio recordings purportedly of Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed, by the way, he admitted it was him, leaked on Sunday, in which he peppered diatribes with profanities while referencing the black vote, economic development, and apathy toward Maxwell Gunter Air Force Base. All three recordings appear to be heavily edited. In a statement issued Monday night, Reed said the audio, quote, features carefully selected sound bites of my voice and was surreptitiously recorded 3 years ago. He claimed the recording was part of an extortion attempt against him. The first recording, called Montgomery, Alabama's First Black Mayor Doesn't Care About Black Votes, was posted Sunday to a YouTube account labeled Montgomery Deserves Better. In the leaked audio, Reed purportedly says that support from white voters is more important for his political survival and, quote, that white money is key to Montgomery's economy.
Come smile. Don't ask me. I can come smile. I don't fucking have to do no goddamn work. Okay? I don't have to do no work systemically, and I'm going to be fine. And guess what? I will always get 38 to 45% of the white vote. If I get 30 to 45% of the white vote, I don't fucking have to damn get the black vote I got in this past election. I'll fucking win.
I mean, boy, he sounds like Roland Martin, doesn't he? Speaking of which, I'm going to get to you too, Fluffy. But yeah, but these black politicians, these bootlicking Negroes, when they talk about black folk, boy, they got James Clyburn, Elijah Cummings, John Lewis, when they snapping at black folks, boy, I mean, they put their back into it. They start yanking out the profanities. But I mean, they've got when they talk bad to black folk, they do it with a passion. They have utter outright contempt. It isn't even disdain. They've just got contempt for black folk. So, of course, these are the people the Democrats push. Of course they are.
30-45% of the white vote, I don't fucking have to damn 45% of the white vote. If I get 30-45% of the white vote, I don't fucking have to damn get the black vote I got in this past election. I'm fucking win. You got a black city, that's great. You can have all black everything. And guess what? You won't have green nothing. The white money thinks that you are looking after their shit, they will take their shit to Prattville, they will take their shit to Pike Road, and you won't have shit.
So remember last night you had the Negro talking about, well, you know, we needed the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa. What was you going to do without the white folks? So, yeah, that was one. That's just one recording. There's more.
I'm not going to have a single fucking conversation with the governor or listen to the governor about maximum government. I don't know nobody who was a maximum governor, except for people I have to meet as a mayor. I don't know nobody there. So if that shit is so important to y'all, then y'all better do some shit that's important to me.
So somebody is saying that they're kind of upset that it sounds like he's flexing. By the way, I see a white face for the YouTube account. So, yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. It's your friends coming to get you. It's your friends coming to get you. Here's another one.
So what I'm going to tell Karen when I meet with them, don't ever fucking tell me that I'm on fucking TV. Every time I'm on fucking TV, I get somebody from New York or LA calling about how can they invest in goddamn Montgomery. Do you think motherfuckers around here gonna invest in Montgomery? Do you think I expect the descendants of Confederate soldiers to fucking invest in Montgomery? Beyond what's good for them. Now, they give us some charity. They give you some charity. Okay? They do that. It's nice. Okay? They'll do something nice over here, Valley Cross or on the board. Okay? But now, they will really invest in systemic change. Hell fucking no, they're not going to invest in it. So don't ever mix up what I'm doing there. There is you haven't seen a scientist as diabolical as me because no one has come into this with what I have. I got 45 years. They will really invest in systemic change. Hell fucking no, they're not going to invest in it. So don't ever mix up what I'm doing there. There is you haven't seen a scientist as diabolical as me because
you haven't seen a scientist as diabolical as me. So in other words, he thinks he's smarter than the white folk and he was bragging to somebody and it's your man set you out. It's like Omar from The Wire. It's your man set you out. Now, as you can see on your screen here, in a statement issued Monday night, Reed did not name who was behind the alleged extortion attempt. Quote, there is an audio clip that features me speaking privately with a member of the Montgomery community. This clip has been heavily edited and features carefully selected sound bites of my voice. The conversation was recorded without my knowledge or consent by this community member almost 3 years ago, the mayor said. And I'm wondering who it was. Because you all know my rule. If you want a black politician to tell you exactly what he thinks, let a white person ask him the questions. So I've got some questions about who it was. Now, it might have been a black person, but then again, you know, you got plenty of low-lying underground coons out there, and this is what they do. Now, it goes on to say that this meeting with this community member was prompted by our concerns about civil unrest in the immediate aftermath of the death of George Floyd. During this meeting, it became abundantly clear to me that this individual sought personal financial gain during a time of crisis in our city, state, and country. You have my word that no one in my administration will ever give in to a shakedown or extortion. Reed continued. The mission of our administration is to bring more opportunity to each and every resident while making sure that Montgomery's success is their success, he concluded. As mayor, I will continue working tirelessly for our citizens and not let distractions keep us from doing the business of the city. So your man set you up. Your man set you out. Your man did that. And here's the problem, people. Instead of having true black visionaries who are not sitting around trying to act like they're going to recreate the wheel of socialism or communism, you need to have your damn best and your brightest in charge who know how to develop a city and develop an economy and increase the value of a city. Run the city like a business and corporation and increase its value. But if you are sitting here and you are beholden to people that you openly say hate you, we got to get money from out the state. Well, if you have to get the money from out the state, then why do you need to worry about the white folks in Alabama that you claim are so racist? Why are you worried about them? He's talking out of both sides of his mouth, then claiming that he's smarter than everybody else. And this is a lesson to be learned, because this is the way of most of your so-called black politicians. Most of them consider themselves to be smarter than every damn body else. Most of your black politicians out there, you let them tell the tale, they'll have you believing that they're smarter than everybody else. And he's sitting up here bragging to somebody that he's smarter than everyone else. And they've been sitting on this for 3 years. 3 years. And he's just been sitting around waiting for the other shoe to drop. But the real issue here is, what are the black voters of Montgomery gonna say or do about this? Are they gonna sit up here and run in his defense? He needs to explain this. Let me say something to the young people out there, because the young people understand this. Those of you aged 40 and younger, if these politicians are not talking about how they're going to build a black economy, then what they are saying is they're going to leave you beholden and at the mercy of a white supremacist economy where they are. If they're not talking about how they're going to put you in charge of the socioeconomic and then socio-political levels of power, then they ain't offering you nothing. They're just offering you the status quo. Let me tell you something. It doesn't do any good whatsoever to say, okay, you got too many racist whites down here in Alabama. I'm going to go see if I can find some racist whites in New York or Los Angeles to come and invest. You got to put the power and the money and the control in the hands of the black folk that you claim are at a disadvantage, so that now the problem is resolved. You don't have to worry about racist whites in your city, outside your city, from Mars, if the economy is controlled by the black folk that you claim are at a disadvantage and are most vulnerable. I told you all over a decade ago, the solution to a white supremacist economy is a black empowerment economy. That's the only solution. Running around telling yourself that you're going to sit up here and get these people to be merciful. You're going to change their nature. You're going to alter what they do, or you going to be super slick and go find some other group of suspected white supremacists to patch up the holes that your native white supremacists. This guy doesn't have a vision or a clue. Not a vision or a clue. Let me tell you something. For all of Mayor Young's faults in Atlanta, and they are many. They are many. There's one thing I got to hand it to them in Atlanta. They had a plan. Hartsfield-Jackson does not end up the busiest airport in the world by accident. They had a plan. 285 through downtown doesn't happen by accident, even though it's a bit of a mess. The building up of what's happening downtown Atlanta, that's the result of a plan. The fact that you had all these black folk come, black people, damn it, come down from New York, come over from Los Angeles to Atlanta. I remember in the mid-1990s, folk like Eric Sermon, Russell Simmons, they came down from New York to Atlanta. Eric Sermon relocated from New York to Atlanta to work with Rowdy Steve Austin. When TLC and them were blowing up, Atlanta was relying not on Ted Turner, but on the native ingenuity from the grassroots soil of black people in Atlanta. Black folk were proud of what they were doing. Yeah, they weren't mega corporations just yet, but they were doing what they did at their level better than anybody else, and that's how the West was won in Atlanta. Black people relying on their own ingenuity. Not worrying about what everybody else got, but worrying about what they were going to build. And built it. So they were threatening you, oh, the white folk going to take their money out. Atlanta didn't sweat that. I got to pop my collar and tip my brim to Atlanta. When they were talking about the white folk moving out, black folk in Atlanta didn't sweat that. Black folk in Atlanta said, yeah, go ahead and leave. Leaves more room for us. And got to work. Every time we start talking about doing something on our own, somebody tries to come along and tell you, now, you know you can't make it without the white folk now. I mean, if they pull out their money, you ain't gonna make it. You ain't gonna make it now. You ain't gonna make it. They always say that. Always. Let me tell y'all something. For those of you who live in Atlanta, you know full damn well they're until 180. There's no white flight out of Atlanta. There's no white flight out of Atlanta. Anybody who's been to downtown Atlanta can tell you there's no white flight out of Atlanta. Because now that Atlanta has become prosperous, they're like, oh, hell no. Hand me my AR-15 and my illegal cop killer bullets and my Ford F-350. I'm hitting the freeway. There is no white flight out of Atlanta. Black people have made it too prosperous. Black people have made Atlanta too prosperous. That's it. They're not running anywhere. So every time that we as black folk need to take the levers of power and create something, they tell us, no, you ain't gonna make it. They always tell you that. Let me tell y'all something. Do you know how to build a black economy? Let me explain to you how to build a black economy. You build a black economy by being proud of who you are and what you got. If it's a restaurant with 5 chairs, be proud of your restaurant with 5 chairs. Make it the nicest, most amenable, most courteous, most comfortable restaurant with 5 chairs in the city. If it's a barbershop with 2 little old chairs, you make sure it's the nicest, most well-apportioned barbershop with 2 little old chairs. That's called community. Because you see, when white folk do that, I'm teaching you entrepreneurship, marketing, and promotion that I've learned in some of the biggest corporations on the planet. If white folk do it, you would call it boutique. Mic drop. You see, when white folks set up something like that and there's only 1 or 2 chairs, they don't call it small. They don't call it puny. They make sure it's as well decorated as it can damn well be, and they call that boutique. They tell you that yours is small and puny and insignificant, but when they do it, they call it boutique. See, you're not understanding the psychological game there. You'll go pay white folks to have 1 or 2 seats right there, and they call it boutique, tailor, bespoke. Look it up. They'll call it bespoke and charge you an arm, a leg, and a kidney. They'll charge you an arm, or they got all kinds of fancy names. Boutique, bespoke, tailored. I'm not talking about little pronouns. They've got fancy names that can run into the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Correct. Artisan. You dealing one-on-one. No, I ain't lying. Bespoke. That's what they call Rolls Royce. Yeah, we doing this just for you. Oh, this is bespoke. Don't you see there's only 1 chair in here? Oh, okay, because when we do it, y'all call it puny and small. But, when you do it, it's bespoke. All right, I understand now. Now I get it. See, understand something. Right down the street, I got to go ahead and read the mail right quick. Let me go ahead and read the mail right quick. Right down the street from the W Hotel, downtown Atlanta, right down the street, there's that restaurant called, what's that, Southern Kitchen? It's right down the street from the W Hotel. I want to see, yeah, past CNN, right down the street from the Southern Hotel. You go there on Saturday or Sunday. It's nothing but black folk there. It's black folk there, black folk working there. I was right at home. I was proud to see it. It was busy as hell. I'm proud to see it. I'm wondering if black folk own it, but I know that everybody working there was black. I know everybody working there is black. I know because I seen it with my own two eyes. And what I'm saying is that's how you build an economy, and the place was full. Oh yeah, one more thing. The place was full. The place was full. Mango's Liddy, I'm not 100% certain. I didn't see that, Child of the Sun, but you might be right. If you're right about that, everybody over by Mango's Liddy. But you can look it up in Google Maps. You can Google Maps. I want to say the name of it is Southern Kitchen. And like I say, the place was full, man. The place was full. Right down the street from the W Hotel in downtown Atlanta. Full. And that's just one among many. What's crackling? What's crackling? Are you kidding me? What's crackling is standing room only. Let me tell y'all something. You got about 10 minutes after What's Crackling opens. You got about 10 minutes. I'm not telling you what I heard from somebody else. I'm telling you what I've witnessed. You got about good 10 minutes when What's Crackling opens till you can't get a seat. It's a line out the damn door. You won't be able to get a seat. That's it. Once it's on, it's on. Houston, Texas, Turkey Leg Hut. Do you really want me to sit here and say this? Yes, I know you're all usually you're usually attracted to somebody like myself, and you speak in a articulate, erudite, academic, proper way. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that's not required to build an economy. It certainly helps. Certainly helps for marketing and promotion. Sure helps. But don't let that get in your way of being the best at what you do. Y'all throw me in front of an oven with some turkey leg bones. God help you what's coming out. It might be cooked, but it's damn sure not going to be gourmet. So don't let that get in your way. Let me do what I do. You do what you do. And let's appreciate that. Let's appreciate that. See, the problem is there are only two obstacles to black folk building economies and cities. Let me explain to you what the two obstacles are. Number one, confidence in yourself and seriousness. Because when you are confident, you become serious. You get your money together so you have the startup capital. You get your credit together so you can borrow money if necessary. You make sure that you are confident in yourself and believe that you can do that. Not just believe it, but you know you can do it. And number two, most importantly, is excellence. If you are excellent at what you do, money is a side effect. The turkey leg hut is not good at what it does. It is excellent at what it does. Money is a side effect. Sweetie Pies is not good at what they do. They are excellent at what they do. Money is a side effect. Sophia's is not good at what they do. Sophia's is excellent at what they do. Sylvia's is not good at what they do. It is excellent at what they do. Customer service might be a little lacking, but money is a side effect. And when you are excellent at what you do, you're excellent at cutting hair, you're excellent at food preparation, you're excellent at upholstery, you're excellent at auto repair, you're excellent at redecorating, you're excellent at contracting. When you are excellent, money is just a side effect. You ain't got to chase the dollar's chasing you. People are always looking for excellence. Don't nobody want to go back to get the same thing done 3 and 4 times. They're always looking for the person who can knock it out the first time, get it right the very first time, so they can get on about their day to go back to what they doing. So when you're talking to politicians who have no faith in you, that's a warning sign. When they go talk to white people, they talk to white people about being hardworking, hard building, middle class, entrepreneurial. When they talk to Asians, hardworking, hard building, entrepreneurial. When they come talk to black folk, well, you see here, we get a little bit of money. We need to cut the poverty rate over here, and we're going to see if we can get you some more handout. Maybe a little more food stamps. They don't talk to everybody else like that. They don't talk to them like that. I want you to recognize the difference. If I talk to you like you got to build and you're going to build, then you will build. But when they try to talk to you like, okay, we're going to open up a lane for you to be a ward of the state. Nah, damn that. Damn that. When you are excellent at what you do, the money makes itself. So be on the lookout and the watch for politicians who talk down to you and don't have faith in you and don't believe in you and don't talk like, okay, I could put these resources in the hands of these admitted white supremacists over there, but I'm going to put it in your hands. They're going to sit up here and say, you wouldn't know what to do with it. Well, hell no, you wouldn't know what to do with it when it keeps getting denied to you. You have no experience. So they won't give you the opportunity because you don't have the experience, but you can't get the experience because you never had the opportunity. Black folk need to understand how to build micro opportunities, build microcosms of it, and then go from there. Everybody's trying to figure out how to be a CEO from day one. It's not fair, but that's not where we at. As unfair as it is to say, that ain't where we at as a group. So having politicians who don't believe in you and are telling you to your face what they don't believe in your ability to do. But then they'll sit up here and make all kinds of concessions to white folk and Asians and Latinos and Arabs, everybody except their own, even in the case of black politicians, everybody except us. That's why the white political establishment chose them. You want to be chosen by the white political establishment? Make sure you let them know that you are no threat. And being a threat means I'm going to empower other black folk. Just ask Marion Barry. If they get the idea that you are actually going to empower other black folk, okay, let's get somebody to primary him. Let's get someone to run against him. Let's see if he ever smoked crack, smoked weed, did something. Weed is legal now. Yeah, we'll make it illegal for a day so we can get him. It'll be illegal this afternoon so we can get him. It'll be illegal this afternoon just so we can get him. I'm telling you all right now, be proud of what you do. Even if you got to do it on a small level, make sure that it is the most excellent micro level business in the city. You make sure it is nice and plush. You make sure it is clean and manicured, whatever it is. Whatever it is. You make sure that you're ready. You got a tow truck, you make sure that's in Shreveport. There's a company, I don't know if they're still there. They might be, they might not be. Body Snatchers. There's a black tow truck company. They all have black trucks, gold letters on them, nice clean trucks on them. That's the way you're supposed to be. Even if you got a tow truck, you got one tow truck, you make sure that thing is immaculate. Chrome wheels, shining, paint, clean, inside, vacuumed. Throw the air freshener in there if you need to. You make sure it's nice. You make sure that's nice. You make sure it's complete. Stop letting people tell you that if you don't have a 2,000 square foot store, you can't do nothing. Be excellent. Be excellent. I don't want to go religious on you. Especially not after what I done read tonight. But you know what the Bible says about that? Be faithful over a little and I'll make you master over much. I need black folk to be proud of, take pride in, and excel at a little. Treat your business the way you do your shoes. Make sure it's fresh and clean. Yeah, it might be small, but make sure it's fresh and clean and ready to go. Your business opens up at 8 o'clock. You're supposed to be on the scene at 7 o'clock so that when the doors open at 8, you can open the door lock at 7:59. That's what it's supposed to be. A few years ago, for example, when I bought one of my trucks, drove all the damn way out of town to go get the damn thing. Dealership opens at 8:30. Tell me why I was able to walk in there and everybody was there at 8:15. All the receptionists, because they had multiple receptionists, they had like 3 receptionists at the front desk. Dealership opens at 8:30. I'm walking in at 8:15. All the receptionists are there. Finance managers are there. Manager is there. All the salesmen are there. All the service techs cleaning up the vehicles, including the truck they were going to sell me. They were doing all that at 8:15. Everything was open, even though the dealership opens at 8:30. And I was able to get in there and get started at 8:15. As black folk understand that. Don't let these people sit up here and tell you that the intangibles aren't important. Those are just intangibles. Don't let politicians head fake you into believing that just because yours isn't as big as Emerald's didn't start as big as Emerald's. I'm from Louisiana. Emerald's didn't start as big as Emerald's. Don't let these folk deceive you into that. And don't let politicians talk you down into that. There's a whole bunch of lessons to be learned. And if you're gullible enough, you live in Montgomery, Alabama, if you're gullible enough to let the mayor of Montgomery tell you what you cannot do, then just understand nobody knocked you down, you laid down. You didn't get knocked down, you laid down. They're testing our gullibility now. Testing our gullibility, and it's up to us to make sure that we don't fall for that. We're going to wrap things up here tonight. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the haven of intelligent black thought. We do this every weekend. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Check to make sure you are still subscribed, because YouTube, as you all know, involuntarily unsubscribes people. So make sure you're still subscribed. If you haven't been to our website, BlackChannelFilms.com, you want to go there and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m. Gentrified Race War, all available on DVD and streaming. Go to BlackChannelFilms.com. That is BlackChannelFilms.com. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chat. I see all of you. Thank you very much for your support. It's very much appreciated. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.